In the mid-1980s, BMW took an ordinary 3 Series, cranked the engine to racing specs, and created a legend. That legend was the M3, and it ended up saving BMW's performance identity. How did a small, boxy homologation special from the 1980s end up shaping an entire global brand? And why did American buyers fall for a lightweight, precision-focused German sports sedan in the first place? Because when the M3 showed up, everything changed. And to see why BMW depends on it, we have to go back to the beginning. Imagine a world where BMW never became the performance icon we know. No M cars, no ultimate driving machine, just another luxury brand fading away. In the 1980s, that future was very real. See, during that time, BMW was under serious pressure. Mercedes-Benz had just dropped the 190E 2.3-16 into touring car racing, and it was dominating headlines. BMW's motorsport division knew they couldn't sit this one out, so they did something radical. They took the humble 3 Series and turned it into a race car for the street. That car became the E30 M3, revealed at the 1985 Frankfurt Motor Show. But here's the crazy part. This wasn't just a regular 3 Series with a bigger engine. BMW practically rebuilt the whole car. Why go that far for a small coupe? Because the M3 wasn't built for comfort or status. It was built to win races. Almost everything beneath the skin was different. The fenders were made broader, the C-pillar was redesigned in order to make it more aerodynamic, and a low-profile rear wing was introduced. The doors and roof were the only common features with the normal 3 Series, and in the hood was the long-fabled S14 2.3-liter 4-cylinder, vibrating above 7,000 RPM and delivering about 192 horsepower. It may not sound huge these days, but in a lightweight 2,600-pound vehicle, it gave it some actual excitement. So did all that racing DNA actually pay off on the track? Oh, absolutely. The E30 M3 dominated. It won the 1987 World Touring Car Championship right out of the gate, plus major titles across Europe, the UK, Italy, Australia, and even the German DTM series. Special editions like the Evo and Sport Evolution pushed power higher and made the car even sharper, all to meet racing rules. It became one of the most successful touring cars in history. But what about America? Did the M3 make the same impact here? In the US, the M3 arrived in 1987 with slightly less power and a price of around $35,000. It wasn't a huge sales hit. Only about 5,300 units sold over 5 years. But that wasn't the point. The M3 gave BMW something more valuable than sales numbers. It gave them an identity. It proved BMW wasn't just another luxury brand. It was a performance brand. But there was one problem. The original E30 M3 was a race car at heart, and not everyone wanted to live with that every day. So how did BMW turn that hardcore machine into something Americans would actually buy in big numbers? The M3 evolution. The answer arrived in 1992 with the E36 M3. This was the moment BMW changed the M3's entire philosophy. Instead of building a raw homologation special, they created a car that combined real performance with everyday comfort. And the biggest change was under the hood. Out went the high-revving 4-cylinder from the E30, and in came a smooth, powerful inline-6 engine. It was more refined, more flexible, and much better suited to daily driving. But here's where it gets interesting. American buyers didn't get the same engine as Europe. So why did BMW give the US a slightly detuned version? It came down to emissions rules, cost, and practicality. When the E36 M3 reached the US in 1995, it used a 3.0-liter inline-6, making 240 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. On paper, that was less than the European car's 286 horsepower, but in the real world, it still felt quick. With a 5-speed manual, the US M3 could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 5.5 seconds, seriously fast for the mid-90s. And for buyers stuck in traffic, there was even an automatic option. So did this softer, more practical M3 hurt its reputation? Or did it finally unlock the success BMW was chasing? It absolutely unlocked it. Priced at about $35,800, the E36 M3 wasn't much more expensive than a regular 3 Series. That made it attainable for a lot more buyers. And for the first time, you could even get an M3 as a sedan, not just a coupe. Nearly half of the American cars were sold with automatics, proving people wanted performance without sacrificing comfort. The results were huge. huge. Over 5 years, BMW sold nearly 37,000 E36 M3s in the US, compared to just 5,300 E30s before it. The M3 was no longer a niche race car for enthusiasts. It became a true performance icon that fit into everyday American life. And that shift didn't just help the M3. It boosted sales of the entire 3 Series lineup and cemented BMW's reputation as the brand that could blend speed, style, and daily usability better than anyone else. By the late 90s, the M3 had already become a hit in America. But BMW wasn't satisfied. They wanted to build the perfect balance between track car excitement and everyday comfort. So what happens when BMW takes that formula and turns the dial all the way up? You get the 2000 E46 M3, arguably one of the most beloved M cars ever made. This was the car that perfected the M3 recipe. Under the hood sat the legendary S54 3.2-liter inline-6, a naturally aspirated masterpiece with individual throttle bodies and an 8,000 RPM redline. In US form, it made 333 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That translated to a 0 to 60 time of about 4.8 seconds. Serious performance for the early 2000s. But the magic of the E46 wasn't just the engine. What really made this car special behind the wheel? It was the manner in which all worked together. The steering was fast and hydraulic. The chassis was tight and responsive, and the brakes were huge. It was difficult to turn through corners on its wider 18-inch wheels and firmer suspension. It had a weight of approximately 3,450 pounds, and it was alive and responsive, particularly in comparison with the softer E36. You could cut through mountain roads and then put on the convertible top and go driving down the Pacific Coast Highway almost like a grand tourer. Sales reflected that appeal. The E46 M3 was selling approximately 44,000 in the US, more than E36. And then came the version everyone talks about, the one that pushed the E46 to its absolute limit. That was the M3 CSL. BMW stripped out about 240 pounds using a carbon fiber roof, lighter panels, and thinner glass. The result was sharper handling, a 0 to 60 time of around 4.5 seconds, and a much quicker lap at the Nürburgring. Only 1,383 were built, and sadly, none officially came to the US. But the legend still spread, and American owners built their own track-focused versions through the booming aftermarket scene. And just when everyone thought the inline-6 M3 formula was perfect, BMW made a shocking move. What if the next M3 had 2 extra cylinders? That's exactly what happened in 2007 with the E90, E92, and E93 M3. BMW dropped in a high-revving 4.0-liter V8 called the S65. It screamed all the way to 8,400 revolutions per minute and produced 414 horsepower. With either a 6-speed manual or a lightning-fast dual-clutch transmission, it could hit 60 miles per hour in as little as 4.6 seconds. For the first time, you could even get an M3 as a practical 4-door sedan, making it perfect for American families who still wanted something wild under the hood. Yes, the cars were heavier, but they were also faster, more advanced, and more versatile. But by the end of the Vive 8 era, a new challenge was coming. Stricter emissions, higher fuel costs, and buyers who wanted more tech and comfort. So how do you keep the M3 exciting without losing its soul? BMW's final V8 specials gave the old-school fans one last celebration. Cars like the M3 GTS and the ultra-rare CRT pushed the V8 formula to the limit, with bigger engines, more power, and tons of carbon fiber. These were the farewell tours for the naturally aspirated V8, and they reminded everyone just how wild that era of M3s really was. But the real victory wasn't in those limited models. It was in the mainstream success. By 2011, the 3 Series had sold over 12 million units globally, and much of that prestige came from the halo effect of the M3. But as the cars grew faster and more comfortable, some enthusiasts started complaining. Was the M3 becoming too soft, too luxurious? There was some truth to it. These cars were heavier, quieter, and more insulated than before. Dual-clutch transmissions became the popular choice. About 80% of buyers went for them, because they made daily driving smoother. But for purists, that smoothness came at the cost of a raw, mechanical feel. Still, for most American buyers, the trade-off made sense. They wanted a car that could commute during the week and thrill on the weekend. Then, in 2014, BMW made another major shift. What if the M3 went back to 6 cylinders, but this time with turbos? That idea became the E30 M3. Under the hood was the S55 twin-turbo 3.0-liter inline-6, making 425 horsepower, later bumped to 444 in the competition models. And the performance jump was huge. The F80 could hit 60 miles per hour in as little as 4.1 seconds with the dual clutch, or 4.3 with the manual. It was lighter than the V8 car thanks to carbon fiber parts, and it packed serious tech, adaptive suspension, active differentials, and eventually all-wheel drive options in the next generation. For American buyers, this was the perfect modern M3. It was brutally fast in a straight line, comfortable in traffic, and packed with features like iDrive, advanced headlights, and driver modes. Sales reflected that appeal, with the M3 and M4 family moving over 70,000 units in recent years. Sure, some purists missed the high-revving drama of the old cars, but the new M3 proved something important. Evolution was the only way the legend could survive in a world full of crossovers and tech-heavy luxury cars. Peak M3 era. Now, if you ask a room full of BMW fans which M3 was the best, one generation almost always comes up first. Not the newest, not the fastest. So why does the early 2000s E46 still sit on the throne? Because the E46 M3 hit a perfect sweet spot. It had just enough modern comfort for daily driving, but it still felt raw, mechanical, and alive in a way newer cars rarely do. At the heart of it was the legendary S54 3.2-liter inline-6. This engine was a masterpiece. Individual throttle bodies, lightweight internals, and a red line near 8,000 RPM. In US spec, it made 333 horsepower and could launch the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 5 seconds. For its time, that was serious performance. But numbers alone don't make a legend. What actually made the E46 so special behind the wheel? It was the balance. The steering was quick and full of feedback. The suspension was firm but still comfortable enough for daily commutes. Massive brakes and wide tires gave it incredible grip. Whether you were carving through canyon roads or pushing it on a track like Laguna Seca, it felt neutral, predictable, and incredibly communicative, like the car was talking to you through the steering wheel and seat. And buyers noticed. Globally, over 85,000 E46 M3s were sold, with about 44,000 going to the US alone. That made it the most popular M3 at the time, and helped boost the entire 3 Series lineup during the early 2000s economic boom. Then there was the version that took the E46 from great to legendary, the one enthusiasts still talk about today, the M3 CSL. BMW stripped out around 240 pounds using carbon fiber panels and thinner glass. The result was sharper handling, quicker acceleration, and a famous Nürburgring lap time that cemented its reputation. Many fans still call it the ultimate analog BMW, the last one before heavy electronics and luxury features took over. So how do the modern M3s compare to that golden era? Today's F80 and G80 M3s are far quicker. We're talking sub 4 seconds 0 to 60 times, adaptive suspensions, carbon ceramic brakes, and all-wheel drive options. But they're also heavier, more insulated, and packed with tech. Some purists say they feel more like mini M5s than raw sports sedans. Still, the spirit lives on. The M3 continues to dominate tracks, inspire new models like the M2, and carry BMW's performance reputation forward. So, what did the M3 really do for BMW in the big picture? It didn't just build fast cars, it built the brand. After the original M3, 3 Series sales exploded, turning BMW into a global performance icon. Today, classic M3s like the E30s and E46s regularly sell for over $100,000 at auctions. That's proof of how deep the M3's impact runs. Every modern M3 and M4 still carries that original DNA, track capability, everyday usability, and the promise of pure driving pleasure. And as long as that formula exists, the M3 will always be the car that defines BMW. So what do you think? Which M3 generation is the real icon? The raw E30, the golden era E46, or the modern turbo monsters? Drop your pick in the comments. And if your heart beats a little faster at the sound of a straight 6, hit subscribe, because this channel runs on premium fuel and bad financial decisions.